All right. Welcome, everybody. We'll let folks join and get settled here. All right. It looks like the number of attendees has sort of stabilized. So, Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody joining us this afternoon. It's I know a big ask to take an hour out of your summer. But hopefully today we can get you some information about molecular engineering that will be useful in your planning for the coming academic year. We're going to focus on the overall sort of structure of our undergraduate degree and hopefully address many of the questions that you might encounter as you go to register for some of those first few classes and plan out your 4 years at UChicago as an engineer. Like to introduce myself. I am a senior instructional professor in molecular engineering. I also wear the hat of director of undergraduate studies. Those two roles mean that I teach many of the classes that you might encounter as an engineer. As an undergraduate engineer, I teach the first two classes in engineering, MENG 211 and 212, that are all about problem solving and analyzing engineering systems. And then I also work with a couple of my colleagues in delivering the design course. That's the capstone course that I'll talk a little bit about later in the slide deck. I also advise all of our students as they make progress in the major. So at any point, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and think about how engineering can be part of your plans. I've put my email at the bottom of this first slide. That is definitely the best way to get in contact with me, particularly over the summer. Don't hesitate to send me an email at any moment. Joining me, I have 4 current undergraduate students, students that are both rising 3rd year and rising 4th year students, so they have a little experience in our program. Those folks joining today are Gabby Morin, Francesca Gossett, Edward Liu, and Charlotte Quintanar. And I've asked them to join to help present a few of the slides and also to address your questions because I suspect they will provide a very valuable perspective as we go. With that, I'm just going to jump right in and just give you a little bit of sort of our history. Engineering at UChicago is a relatively new field and also program. Our undergraduate program in engineering was launched in 2016, and since then it's been a set of efforts to rapidly grow and expand our programs and to deliver a really powerful engineering degree to those who are interested. And this has involved expanding sort of the delivery of our academic opportunities, but also our research, our careers opportunities, and building our engineering community on campus. And again, as I go today, I'll hopefully touch upon all of those different aspects. This past June, we graduated 46 students in engineering, and we are very happy to see them off and running into the next steps of their careers. Our approach to engineering mirrors, the general engineering field in the sense that we serve as that interface between science and technology and society. Engineers work really hard to translate discoveries and apply tools to the benefit of society. And so we take on many different roles and have to understand a lot about the world around us and the needs of that world. And also at the same time, understand a lot of science and underlying fundamental technology. In the case of molecular engineering, our goals are really to focus on those smaller length scales. And so what we do is think about how to operate at the atomistic, molecular, and nanoscales, working with synthetic building blocks to create functional electronic, optical, mechanical, chemical, biological devices from those building blocks. And often what we do is try to take those unique systems that are generated and apply them to technologies that are impactful, whether it's clean water or renewable energy or regenerative medicine or addressing challenges in cancer biology, all the way through to quantum information and quantum computing. Our program in molecular engineering is that broad, but it does have that common theme of engineering, rigorous engineering at its heart, but sort of leveraging the areas of chemical, biological, and quantum materials in engineering. The PME differs from traditional programs in that we are not focused on what the disciplines have been, but rather what we can do with those disciplines. And so that is reflective of not only the research and how faculty view themselves within the PME at UChicago, but also our academic programs. If you look at our faculty, they fall into three sort of big categories. And the reason I show this slide today is just to give you a sense of sort of the opportunities. These are faculty in the PME who sort of self-identify as working in one of three themes, either material systems for sustainability and health, immunoengineering, and quantum engineering. Our undergraduate program is very well aligned with these research themes. I point out that the faculty sometimes appear in multiple of these columns, and that's purposeful. These are often interdisciplinary areas where there is overlap in faculty, and also us as US students and us as instructors have to gain expertise at those boundaries as well and start to understand the neighboring fields because we will need to use them from time to time. The other thing that you'll note on this slide next to each faculty name in parentheses is those faculty's backgrounds. Where do they come from? What degrees did they get as students? And you'll notice it's quite broad, ranging all the way from chemical engineering and material science and engineering through to applied physics, pure physics, electrical engineering, chem, and some of the more fundamental sciences. This is a constant theme again, that engineering, in particular molecular engineering, is a very interdisciplinary field. And our undergraduate programs ask you as students to build those same skills, those same broad skills. If you have any interest in learning more about our faculty and what they do, I would encourage you to survey the PME's faculty directory. And I've taken a snapshot of a few of the first faculty in alphabetical order that can be found on the faculty directory. But within each faculty's page, you'll find links to their research groups and opportunities to learn more about the work they're doing in their labs, the papers they've been recently publishing, and sort of the areas they aim to impact. Okay, so if that is an overview of what molecular engineering at UChicago is all about, let's talk for a moment about sort of what we aim to do with the undergraduate program. And so the major in molecular engineering combines a strong background in math and the sciences, offered within the university's overarching liberal arts environment. And we provide a very rigorous engineering education, but add an opportunity for you all as individuals to craft your own plan and to go beyond that major framework to do more. And I'll give you some ideas today about how you might go about doing that. The educational outcomes are to prepare you to be leaders in a technological society. We want you to be highly employable and to be really attractive for potential employers. if you want to go work in industry once you graduate. Equally, we want to prepare folks to be able to enter graduate or professional programs should they choose to continue on their training and continue going to school. That could be PhD programs, in some cases master's programs, or in others, going to medical school. To enable this, we work with students to build skills around working as part of a team, being leaders, project management, developing communication skills, and then ultimately being responsible and ethical engineers and scientists throughout their professional careers. So those are our educational outcomes. How do we deliver that? We start, of course, by building upon the UChicago core and the liberal arts environment. Everyone is required to take more math, chemistry, physics, biology on top of that core. We want to give everyone the skill set in those areas necessary to be successful as an engineer, and again, to sort of be able to work across those boundaries between fields as an engineer. Oops. Sorry. The next thing we do is add a molecular engineering foundation. These are 7 shared classes that all of our undergraduates in molecular engineering are required to take. These include the first 2 classes in engineering that, as I said, I teach. These are courses focused on engineering problem solving, working with data, understanding the principles of conservation of mass, energy, momentum, charge, building models, systems analysis, and ultimately computational tools and numerical methods that you will use over and over again throughout your career to solve engineering problems. Every student is required to take a course in quantum mechanics, a course in thermodynamics, and a course in transfer phenomena. And on top of that, at the end, as our capstone, every student is required to take a 2-quarter sequence of engineering design. This is a project-based course where we bring in projects from the outside, local industry, national labs, and you as small teams of students go tackle those problems in an open-ended manner. And this is a lot of fun. Often the problems are very challenging, ones for which there are no known solutions, and you can drive the progress on that project in lots of different creative directions based on your own interests and skills. So that's the foundation, 7 shared classes that all of our majors are required to take. And at that point, students start to differentiate by choosing one of our 3 tracks. We offer 3 tracks: a bioengineering track, a chemical engineering track, and a quantum engineering track. The bioengineering track asks everyone to take 2 quarters of organic chemistry, biochemistry, and experimental bioengineering lab that we offer, and that's relatively new to our department. And then also choose an elective from the areas of quantitative physiology, principles of immunology, cellular engineering, quantitative systems biology. Chemical engineering is also 5 courses for the track. A little bit more chemistry, of course, but then courses that get you deeper into the areas of thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and chemical kinetics and reaction engineering. The quantum engineering track is 6 courses, 2 more courses that teach you more about quantum mechanics theory, 2 courses in electricity and magnetism, a quantum lab course, and then an elective that you choose from the indicated list. As you will note, all of them have some lab component to them, and getting experience in building hands-on skills is a core aspect to our program. So we highly encourage it, not only through our courses, but through other opportunities such as research. So that is the major. And all of the major requirements are, of course, outlined in the college catalog page for molecular engineering. We have tables for each of the 3 tracks: bioengineering, chemical engineering, and quantum engineering. And they basically replicate what I shared with you on this slide. This is the go-to source. if you complete these courses, you have satisfied the molecular engineering major requirements, and you'll graduate with a degree in molecular engineering. On that catalog page, which is the go-to reference, and if you come to me for advising, I will also go to that page as I talk with you to refer to it. There are sample 4-year plans provided for each of the 3 tracks. And I just want to talk through a few of those 4-year plans. They are by no means the only plans that one could create to satisfy the major requirements. And that's part of the flexibility of our degree. The ones I'll share are somewhat standard, taken by a good number of our students every year, but again, there are alternatives. The plan here for the bioengineering track illustrates a situation in which a student comes in being placed into Math 183, recognizing that they want to be an engineer. And in that situation, what we would advise typically is that folks start in their math, chemistry, and physics classes at the highest level for what they're permitted, and to take those sequences concurrently in their first year to make as much progress on math, chem, phys as they can. What that will enable you to do is in second year, start in your molecular engineering coursework with MENG 211 in autumn quarter. And this MENG 211 course is the entry point to the molecular engineering coursework. It is offered in autumn quarter only. And so this would be the first opportunity that anyone has to come and take a molecular engineering course. And doing so provides a couple advantages. In second year, what you do is continue on that sequence of the foundational classes in engineering with 212, 213, and then 214. We would recommend that you take maybe a little bit of biology, maybe a little bit of more chemistry, organic chemistry, in this case for the bioengineering track, alongside of it, and also taking Soc throughout second year, making progress on your core requirements. I will note at this moment that in first year, taking humanities and taking some art to make progress towards the core requirements is also a strong recommendation for molecular engineers. In third year, what you would start to do is get into your track specific classes. So in this instance, you would take maybe that MENG elective in quantitative physiology or principles of immunology that you're excited to learn more about. Take the experimental bioengineering lab, take biochemistry. And what that does is set you up for fourth year, in which all you have to do to complete the degree requirements is take the design course. The rest of that time is completely flexible. And we would encourage you to think about how you want to use and invest your time at the university in as productive a way as possible. What more do you want to do? Do you want to go deeper and learn more immunology and take some grad level classes that get you deeper into the field? Do you want to devote more time into your research activities? Do you want to pursue an honors thesis and write a really professional document about the work you've been doing? There are lots of opportunities at UChicago, and so as you go, start thinking about how you want to use that freedom in this plan. So this is one option, starts in molecular engineering coursework in autumn of second year. An alternative plan for someone on the bioengineering track would be to start in the molecular engineering coursework in autumn quarter of their third year. In this situation, the difference is that this student may be placed into Math 151 to start. Maybe has never done calculus before and starts with differential calculus in autumn quarter. In this scenario, we would recommend that folks take math and chemistry on the bioengineering track in first year, focus on making as much progress on those two topics as possible, use second year to complete the rest of the math required for the major, in this case, Math 184, 185, take physics, and make progress on some of those other core and major requirements where possible. So taking biology, continuing to take Soc, maybe taking organic chemistry in second year. All of those could be great ideas that make very productive use of second year and leave you very well positioned for third year to start in MENG 211. At that point, the plans follow pretty closely. In third year, you would go through the foundational courses. In fourth year, you would take design and finish many of the track-specific classes. But this is an opportunity and a pathway to complete the degree requirements in 4 years. And so this really creates opportunities for anyone with any background who's interested in engineering to complete the degree. These are sort of the two ends of the spectrum, I would say, in terms of what's typically encountered. And there are lots of plans that students craft to their own individual needs that are somewhere in between these two illustrated here. Just to highlight, this also works for other tracks. I want to share the quantum engineering sort of alternative 4-year plan that's illustrated on the catalog page. Again, in this case, students start in Math 151, again, assuming no calculus background. They may take, depending upon sort of their preparation, physics, if they're ready to do so. And then they would start in MENG 211 in autumn quarter of third year. So it looks very similar to the bioengineering track, but some of the subtleties around the track-specific courses are, again, a little bit different, primarily in fourth year of this plan. Okay. I want to share a little bit of general advice regarding registering for first year classes, which I know is rapidly approaching for everyone. As a starting point, we advise everyone to start math, chemistry, physics sequences at the highest level for which they're prepared, and to complete the general education requirements as early as possible, meaning make progress in Hume, Civ, art classes as early as you can, ideally trying to get those into your schedule by second year, and if not possible in second year, by the end of third year at the latest. Students placed into Math 152, Math 183, or higher are strongly advised to take math, chem, physics courses concurrently in their first year. Doing so will position you by the end of first year and the start of second year to be able to start your molecular engineering coursework in that second year. That gives you a little bit more flexibility in your third and fourth years to craft a plan that gets you deeper into topics of your interest. Students placed into Math 131 or 151 have excellent pathways through the major still available to them. This follows a more traditional UChicago 2+2 timeline, basically 2 years focused on the core, 2 years focused on the major. In this plan, I suggest folks look at what we have drafted as alternative plans on the college catalog. But in those cases, you would typically take math and chemistry or math and physics in your first year and take as many of your humanities, social sciences, civ, arts, and classes as your schedule permits. As an overarching bit of advice, I would recommend everyone create a 4-year plan for your time at UChicago, and to do so early. Do so this summer, even. This does not mean this is a binding plan or something that's set in concrete. You should review your goals and plans regularly and allow them to evolve as needed. This is something that will certainly change, in my experience, as you go and learn more about what you're interested in and gain a greater focus about where you see your career and your future once you graduate, where you see that being headed. And then overall, use your time at UChicago strategically. There's lots of wonderful opportunities. These are opportunities for you to take advantage of and benefit from, and be really thoughtful in what you choose to take on. Okay, with that, I want to share a few other opportunities specific to molecular engineering that we're really proud of and that we've developed to build our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Francesca to give a little bit of Introduction to Climb. Okay, and there we go. Oops. Francesca, floor is yours if you can.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Francesca. I am a rising fourth year in the college molecular engineering major. I'm on the chem track, and then I have a minor in sustainable energy and water resources engineering. And I'm the co-president of Climb. So Climb is collaborative learning in molecular engineering, and it's one of sort of the programs within the major that really allows you to engage deeply with the material while also sort of learning in a low stakes, very friendly environment. So Climb is a program where on Sundays, once a week, you meet for 2 hours, and with your peers, you sort of work through a problem set together to more deeply understand the material. So this course is offered for 3 different classes for 211, 213, and 214. And it's not a problem set that's made by the professors. Instead, it's made by third and fourth year students like us, who have been through these classes, know what it's like to learn these classes, maybe what will be helpful to better understand the material. And then, as you can see in this picture, we sort of work in groups of 4 to 5 students, so you really get to know your classmates well while also learning the material better. It's by students and it's for students. So I, of course, am a fourth year. My co-president is another fourth year named Lillian, and we run the program. The professors are really helpful. So Professor Stoykovich is sort of our touch point on this, and it's really, really helpful for 211, tells us what you guys are learning in class and how we can better support you all. But then the TAs for this class are students as well, third and fourth years. And so it's sort of a very friendly way to get deeper into this. And it's a very low stakes time. It's attendance based, the 0 credit course. It's really just there to help support your learning and to make sure that you really understand what's going on. And the collaborative environment, I think, is one of the most important parts because it can be very scary to take your first engineering class, and having this sort of space where you can just talk to peers in your classes and really get to know them and get to know what they're worried about. And if you're worried about the same thing, that's always very validating. And so I really am passionate about this program. I think it really, really helps. I mean, that's how I met most of my friends in the major. And it's really the way that I first engaged with engineering in a very critical sense. Yeah, you'll take this in your second or third year concurrently with the classes that you're taking. So when you take MENG 211, you'll sign up for MENG 00211, which is MENG Climb for 211. Yeah, I can answer more questions about this later.
Yeah, optional supplement, right? That you as a student, if you want to engage and get involved in this program, you can. Not a requirement.
Yeah, not required.
Another opportunity I'd like to highlight is, again, along the lines of maximizing your value of your time at UChicago. I often use this pie chart to illustrate this. If we think about how many credits are required to graduate, it is 4,200 units or 42 courses. That's a requirement for all students in the college. Of those 42 courses, 15 are general education, the core. 9 in the humanities, civilizations, arts, social sciences, 2 in math, 2 in chemistry or physics, and 2 in biology. The molecular engineering major adds 19 courses beyond that. Again, that additional science background, our foundational classes, and then our track-specific classes. If you add 15 and 19, that's 34, meaning that every student must take at least 8 more classes to graduate from the university. If you stay 4 years and take 4 classes every quarter, you could take all the way up to 48 classes if you wanted, or 14 additional classes beyond the major requirements. So that 8 to 14 courses is completely free for you to use as you wish. And what I would encourage you to do is think about how you would like to use that time. In some cases, students choose double major, and double majoring creates breadth. In some instances. Some majors pair really well with chemistry and fit in very nicely. Chemistry and chemical engineering as an option, very common. Physics and quantum engineering track, another very common double major. maybe bioengineering and neuroscience, if you're interested in the topics of neuroscience, is possible. An alternative would be to pursue a minor. We have students pursuing minors in all sorts of different other areas. We have students that are very talented musicians and artists, for example, that choose to double major in those spaces. But what we've done is to create an option for all students to add minors in molecular engineering on top of their majors in engineering. And so we've created 7 specialization minors that with 5 courses our majors can take and add a very focused and advanced experience in these topics. And I've listed them here. There are 3 in the more bio or immuno spaces. They're titled immunoengineering, tissue engineering, or molecular cellular tissue engineering, and systems biology. There are 3 more in the more chemical engineering space. There's an energy and water focused on renewable systems primarily. There's a minor in computational materials development and a minor in polymers and soft materials. And then finally, there is a minor that we offer in quantum information systems that adds very nicely on top of the undergraduate degree in quantum engineering. Many of the courses that you would take in these minors are cross-listed at the graduate level and taken and populated by folks pursuing their PhD. So they're advanced courses that get you much deeper and get you a really unique experience and exposure that will prepare you for whatever future path you choose. These are with 5 courses, only a fraction of your free elective space, but I think a really solid opportunity and a way to use your freedom quite constructively. Just to highlight that these are pretty common for our students to pursue, I illustrate this bar chart. We introduced the minors, these specialization minors, and those are the ones in the colored bars. Those were first introduced in the 2021 academic year, and you can see that our students have rapidly opted to pursue them to the point where every year we have somewhere between 15 and 20 students pursuing them and really pursuing all 7 of those different specializations. That reflects, I think, the breadth of interest of our students have in all these different areas. So we're really excited about this and would encourage you to think about these specialization minors if you're interested. We have very talented students that, as I've alluded to, do all sorts of things with their time at the university. Very successful academics. I would say that is the baseline for every undergraduate. I would encourage you to really focus, particularly in first and second year, of starting strong in terms of your classes and your academics, and using that as a foundation and springboard for years 3 and 4. At some point, I would highly encourage you, if you were an engineering student, to add research to your set of activities. We have students that spend multiple years pursuing projects with faculty and research groups across campus. Many, of course, work with faculty in the Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering, but equally, we have students as engineers who take on research projects with folks in chemistry or physics or biology or neuroscience, or even the medical school. All of those other departments can provide a really excellent exposure to the research endeavor and provide sort of a beneficial skill set. We also have students that are very entrepreneurial minded and that work to develop new technologies and start companies based on their work, ranging all the way from going through the IP process to raising funds to enable their work to incorporating their companies and making it what they aim to do full-time after they graduate. And we're very proud of all the students who work on these different interests. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gabby and Edward to talk a little bit about some student-run organizations that are on campus that may be of interest to engineers. And this is a great way, again, to build your interest set, build new skills, and to meet new people in our community. Edward, Gabby.
I can go ahead and start. My name's Gabby. I am a rising third year molecular engineering student on the chemical engineering track, also doing the minor in polymers and soft materials. That is one of the molecular engineering minors that Professor Stoykovich talked about. And I am one of the co-presidents of the Society of Women Engineers, SWE. And the RSO is mainly focused on supporting women and other gender minorities in engineering and also the larger sciences. We do this through a lot of outreach, mentorship, community building, and career and academic development. So we host a lot of events such as professor talks, where you can learn about different professors, both in the PME and other science professors, learn about their research, talk to them about their career path. Also other mentorship programs, connecting undergraduate with graduate students to learn about their path, whether research is a good idea in the future. And then also other community-based events such as study breaks and community outreach and science communication. Then we also collaborate with a lot of these other RSOs that are here, such as the Society for Molecular Engineering, which Edward will talk about, and then all of these other RSOs and different RSOs around the campus. And overall, it's a very supportive, collaborative environment where you can really get to know your peers, both in molecular engineering, and we have a lot of other members from other science-based majors. And I've made some of my very closest friends from SWE. So I highly recommend looking at, if it's not SWE, some of these are the RSOs and RSOs on campus.
Yeah, thank you, Gabby. Hi, everyone. I'm Edward. I'm a rising fourth year molecular engineering student, specializing in the chem track. And I'm also one of the co-presidents for the Society for Molecular Engineering and also one of the co-presidents for the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers. For Society for Molecular Engineering, what we really do is similar to SWE, except kind of for the molecular engineering major as a whole. We host professor talks, social events, and certain career events as well, and talk about grad school applications, research, basically everything that kind of doesn't really fit into like the official courses or like department programming that we have. We try to provide that to the students. And then also some of the other RSOs you see here offer similar and also more unique aspects to the undergraduate experience as scientists and engineers. So I highly encourage you guys to check them out. You'll have an opportunity to learn more about them. I believe it's week 1 on Friday. Usually there's like a big RSO fair, and I'm pretty sure most of these RSOs will be outside tabling, and you can just go around and go talk to them, see what kind of events they host. And I definitely encourage you guys to check out all of them. I would say an additional benefit is, if you're interested in being involved in the community, like these RSOs are also a great gateway into more opportunities. Part of the reason why we're here presenting with Mark is like he knows that we are the leaders of these organizations, and we're also very well connected with the CLIMB program. So I think if you're looking to get involved in the undergraduate community that is molecular engineering, it's definitely very encouraged to go through these RSOs, and kind of the other opportunities and connections will just come along with that. So
yes, thank you so much, Edward, Gabby. Really appreciate it. I do also want to highlight the PME mailing list that I run at the bottom. If you're interested in molecular engineering and become a molecular engineer, I would highly encourage you to join this list. If you want to be added, just send me an email. I'll be happy to add you. Through this, I send out sort of notifications to our molecular engineering community about academics, about career opportunities, about summer programs, etc. I don't try to flood inboxes by any means, but share sort of important strategic opportunities that are intended to benefit our students. I also want to take a moment to just talk about career pathways, because this is a common question I often get. molecular engineering, somewhat of a unique field, or titled at least uniquely. And sometimes that elicits a little bit of concern that it makes finding jobs or finding opportunities once you graduate more difficult. I would say that's absolutely not the case, and has not been the experience for our students whatsoever. Every year we have 97 or higher percent of our graduates that have substantive plans once they graduate. And I have a few statistics here for 2022, but in 2022, 79% of our graduates went to work in industry or associated fields right away, while 21% went to graduate school. Those numbers vary a little bit year to year. I would say in general, I think it's closer to maybe 30% that pursue more school once they graduate. But the range of opportunities is quite broad, which is reflective of sort of the breadth of our programs that we offer, but also our student interests. So if you're interested in biotechnology, for example, you can go work at multinational large pharmaceutical companies, all the way down to small startups in the Bay Area focused on biosensing or biodiagnostics. Same is true in the materials and quantum fields. If you're interested in consulting, engineering can be a great pathway into that space as well. It's not the only pathway in by any means, and it's probably not the most common outcome for our students, but it is certainly within the realm of possibility. Same goes for finance or data science or any of those really quantitative problem solving demanding areas. And again, that's what you practice as an engineer. In terms of grad school, we have students going to just a huge range of different types of programs, from bioengineering, biomedical engineering, through chemical and material science engineering, to applied physics, electrical and computer science. And really, these are folks going to top tier programs that provide them great opportunities for the future. We work hand in hand with the Careers in Engineering office here on campus to provide resources to enable students to be successful as they search for internships and get started in their full-time careers once they graduate. Mary Casper is the program director for Careers in Engineering, and she's a good person to get to know if you choose to be a molecular engineer. She engages with over 99% of the engineering majors every academic year through either one-on-one advising or immersive experiences, or through other opportunities. And I've just highlighted from the past couple of years some of the annual events and activities that Careers in Engineering and Mary have delivered to our students, including exploration weeks and treks, where you may get off campus and go to other cities in the US or maybe internationally to look at how those industries work, to meet sort of experts in those fields, all the way through more on-campus activities like the Fall Recruiting Fair, the PMA Spring Showcase, the Quantum Recruiting Forum, that are offered throughout the year, really for your benefit, to provide opportunities for you to meet experts and for experts to come on campus and meet you all, and to serve as sort of that initial connection that will allow you to more easily secure an internship or a full-time opportunity. So this is sort of the 2023-2024 highlights. Here are the highlights from 24-25 academic year. Again, treks, career fairs, etc. The coming academic year looks to be as equally jam-packed with opportunities, and I would encourage you to start thinking about which of these you would like to join and starting to take advantage of them as soon as possible. So that's the career side of things, and there are lots of other opportunities. Engineering Fellows is another one. I don't want to talk too much on this particular point, but this is a program that is one that we partner with Careers on, but it provides some immersion sessions, some opportunities to develop new career skills, and also provides some small group mentoring where you get paired with third and fourth year molecular engineering students to gain their insight and expertise that you can hopefully adopt and build upon as you go through our programs. So with that, I think it's time for me to stop. I've probably talked too much. Hopefully, I've already addressed some of these common questions, but I'd love to open it up for questions and try to address as many as possible this afternoon. So,
So
Carrie,
Mark,
do we have questions?
yeah, there are two that are sitting. One that's probably more for you, one that might be more general. A question about the curriculum from earlier. So I know that Math 184 is a prereq to start molecular engineering classes. Can the third quarter of Honors Calc, Math 163, satisfy that prereq instead, since it also covers multivariable calc? And I have input here, but maybe you want to talk first.
Well, but why don't you share your input first?
Yeah, well, in the catalog, actually, the math course is not listed as the prereq. So I'm not sure that maybe you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so as a starting point, always examine the prerequisites listed for the individual courses you're intending to take and for which you seek to register. That will by far provide the best guidance as to what you should do. We've thought very carefully about what the prereqs are for our classes, really not to serve as gates and to prevent anybody from taking our classes, but from the perspective of ensuring that you will have the background necessary to succeed in our classes. And so I would say don't bend or break the prereqs unless you talk to me first. In most cases, I'll say that's a terrible idea. Now, the math sequence is also quite interesting. If you are thinking about honors calculus sequence as an engineer, I would start by asking you the question, why? What do you hope to gain by taking the honor sequence? Do you intend to double major in math? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to double major in math and engineering, which we've had students do, I would say by all means, take the honor sequence. The best preparation will lead into analysis. It'll get you, where you want to go in math. If you say, no, I'm just taking honors calculus because I want a more proof-based exposure to mathematics, then I would ask what it might add, why you want to do that, and what it would add to your engineering degree. Are there other better uses of your time in first year? Everyone has a choice ultimately about what they choose to do. But from my experience, most students who are engineers don't choose to take the honor sequence just for the sake of it. One alternative I'll also highlight is about the 180s. For many of our classes, if you choose to do the analysis sequence, the entirety, the three-quarter entirety of the analysis sequence, that will satisfy our 180s, math 180s requirement. And that's not something that's explicitly stated, Carrie, in the requirements.
Great. There's a few more here. Let's start with this one. Would you discourage double majoring in an unrelated field, such as economics?
I try not to discourage anybody from doing anything they want to do. I might always ask you the question, why again? What's the intention? And I will say we have, I should say we have students every year, multiple students every year who choose to double major in economics and engineering. If you know upfront that you want to be an engineer and go into industry and practice as an engineer, I would ask the question, what value does the economics double major add? If you think that value is relatively low, then I would argue there are better alternative uses of your time at the university that will open more doors for you in the future. What that could look like is taking, a few more advanced engineering courses. Maybe you take, 2 economics classes because you're interested in just getting the foundations of economics. Maybe you take 2 business classes from Booth. You take a class in entrepreneurship or public policy, data analysis, and maybe you've crafted something that's even better than the double major.
Yeah, I would second that a little bit. I came in thinking I was going to consider econ double major, but I think after talking with a couple advisors, you really don't get the flexibility of an undergraduate major like from afterwards. Like if you go to graduate school or whatever, you're pretty fixed in what you're doing. So I think um if you already have a major and like you're thinking about doubling majoring, that imposes a lot more requirements on your class schedule and kind of just fixes what you're doing. And if you're just doing it for just like, oh, the honor of having 2 majors, I wouldn't really recommend that. If there's specific parts of the econ major that you're interested in, you can just take those classes and still have time to do other things. So, because I've heard it is definitely possible to do the econ major, but it because of like prereqs and timing with different classes, it can be difficult. You might have to schedule something in the summer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I often share that I double majored in chemistry and chemical engineering as an undergraduate. And I say with great confidence, I never used my chemistry degree, and I do not view myself as a chemist. So you got to think about the value it adds and whether, again, there's better things to be doing with your time. It's, this challenge of opportunity cost. Along those lines, I would also caution everybody, particularly in first year, to avoid taking on too much. Don't jump into everything, because of all of the exciting opportunities there are. Be a little bit selective and make sure you don't overwhelm yourself in that first year. The more you take on now means the less likely is you'll be able to take on new opportunities when they arise down the road.
Mark, there's a similar question here. What double majors or minors might be beneficial for employers to look at for someone interested in molecular engineering?
I mean, I think it could be really, it's quite broad, in all honesty. If you're an engineer who wants to go into the finance field, yeah, maybe doubling in economics adds a little bit. It's by no means necessary, I will say. The vast majority of the engineering majors that I've worked with who have gone to work in finance have done so with basically no economics courses under their belt, and been very successful at it. But maybe it adds, maybe gets the foot in the door for the first internship or something like that. I think in general, if you're going to work as an engineer in a technical space, pursuing a minor that gets you deeper demonstrates something that's kind of unusual compared to undergraduates at other institutions, and that might really set you apart. Taking those advanced undergraduate cross-listed grad classes that are really specialized in energy or water or computational modeling will give you skills that you will use once you hit that job. You'll continue to grow new skills, but also it, I think, demonstrates an ability to handle challenging new material rapidly, which is what you'll need to do when you encounter something new on the next job. So I would say going deeper often is better than sort of broadening out. If you were to broaden as an engineer, again, staying technical in your career path, I would say trying to double in a degree that adds something new, a new sort of aspect to your abilities, but that is also pretty technical. So something like chemistry, chemical engineering, obvious one, physics, quantum engineering, obvious, with the physics sort of adding, more of a theoretical tilt, perhaps, maybe a little bit more exposure to particle physics than you would encounter in quantum engineering. And I think those are the obvious double majors that could be really good. I would say don't do a double major because it's the easy thing to do. Don't just collect majors for the sake of it.
Okay. Let's see, what's a good next one? I guess there's a couple questions on this theme. So what are your thoughts on taking honors courses for physics or chem, which ones to prioritize maybe, which are maybe less important? Any advice?
Yeah, I'll maybe start from the other side of it, which would be that don't feel obligated as an engineering student to take any honors classes in chemistry or physics. If you take the standard sequence in chemistry or physics, you'll be very well prepared for the engineering coursework ahead and well positioned for our degree. If you choose to challenge yourself a little bit, and I think it's a good idea to do so if that's something you're up for, I would say choose to take either honors chemistry or honors physics. I don't think it tends to work out very well if you try to pursue both of the honors sequences simultaneously. I would, if you're choosing one, choose the one that's most closely aligned with the track in engineering that you intend to pursue. So if you're on the bioengineering or chemical engineering tracks, I would recommend taking honors chemistry. If you're on the quantum engineering track, I would encourage you to take honors physics. But again, not a requirement and not a necessity for anyone to take an honors sequence. Maybe we can ask one of the current students to help answer that and share their perspective as well. Charlotte, you want to maybe jump in on that one?
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm a rising third year on the quantum engineering track. And I recommend taking, like Mark said, as many of the physics, chem, and math first year. First year, I took general chemistry, general physics, and the 180 sequence, and that has worked out quite well for me.
Great, thank you.
I will say, if you feel like you're up for it, it can be a good way to see how much course load you can manage. I think a big part of the molecular engineering program is like managing your plate size. So like, first year taking all of these STEM classes is a kind of a good gauge for how much you want to load your classes on later if you want to take more STEM electives versus maybe you're interested in some other topics and you want to spread out the STEM classes. I know some people feel like, oh, I don't want to take 3-4 STEM classes a quarter every quarter for like the rest of my undergraduate career. So I think that and like taking the honors sequences can give you more of a sense of how maybe loading more graduate STEM classes would feel like. So if you feel like that might be along your path and you want to see how you can handle it, it's not necessarily a bad idea.
Yeah, that's part of the flexibility, right, of our degree and how you can sort of structure it to your own needs. Find that right balance for you in terms of how you want to challenge yourself each and every quarter. Yeah, I think that's great advice, Edward. Thanks.
There's another one here, Mark, that maybe we can tag team on. How would the foreign language requirement fit into the model molecular engineering tracks? So the 4-year plans that you had sketched out.
They're not explicitly listed in the 4-year plans that we've provided on the catalog page. I've seen students work in their language requirement all the way from in first year through to the end, to saving it to the very end and doing it in 4th year. And to be honest, Probably the sweet spot is somewhere in between those two extremes. What are your thoughts, Carrie, on that one?
Yeah, it really depends and varies by student. But I would say if you are continuing a language for which you're not a heritage speaker, maybe in particular, the earlier you can continue it in college, the better, just so you don't start to lose some of that knowledge that you've gained over the years. But on the flip side, if you're a heritage speaker and that language memory is not going away, and on kind of like the opposite side of the spectrum, if you're starting a brand new language, then there's really no urgency to start it, ASAP. I think those groups probably could wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Um,
Maybe I can take a moment to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that there's also a lot of opportunity within the major because there is so much flexibility to study abroad. And so when I went abroad, that not only knocked out all of my civilization requirement, but it also finished my language requirement because I was in Paris. And so I did that during the summer after my second year. Many people do it in the third year in the winter. And so it really is pretty flexible. People go in the spring, but that's another good way to get your language out of the way.
Thank you, Francesca. That's exactly where I was headed. I want to talk about study abroad at that moment. There's often a perception that, the molecular engineering major is so tightly packed and has so many requirements that you can't do study abroad, and that's patently not true. So um, there are maybe opportunities where it's a little bit easier to fit into the schedule than others. But we highly encourage folks who are interested in study abroad to do so and to try to build into their plans. It's one of those examples of, again, an opportunity cost. If you decide to do study abroad, it may take a few other things off your plate. If you tell me I want to double major and do one of the minors and study abroad, I might go back to you and say that's really ambitious, and I admire the ambition, but that probably isn't going to be possible. I would, ask you to think about it a little bit more closely. But if study abroad is something you want to do, by all means, and there are ways to do it.
All right. I know we're already starting to run over time. There's a couple more here. I'm going to pick strategically and maybe say for other more nuanced questions that are like individual student specific, maybe they should reach out to you by email.
That sounds great.
Okay, great. But there's a few that maybe everybody would want to hear. Here's one. Is there a specific computer that you recommend for this one is chemical engineering track, but for any of the tracks?
I get this question somewhat frequently, actually, over the summers as folks get ready to come to campus. The answer is no. I'll tell you right now that my work laptop is 5 years old. It's at the end of 5 years right now. And I do everything I need to on it, and I teach, a very technical programming focused class using this laptop. I think any new laptop you were able to purchase will, if you take good care of it, will last you and satisfy the needs in engineering for the next 4 years. I would encourage you to go to UChicago IT, and they have a couple online frequently asked question pages about new machines, and I think there's even some options for discounted machines that you could pursue. So with a little research, you can find that information. I think general college information is really the same for engineering.
All right, we'll say maybe last one here. This might open a much bigger conversation. But if there's anything like short that you want to speak to here,
Sure.
how do you incorporate the use of AI in the curriculum? And as you look at the field, how do you see AI changing the landscape?
Oh, that's a really that is a meaty question. Well, it's I would say it's not at the heart of what we do for our foundational classes in engineering. We focus very much on instilling in our students the abilities around problem solving, model building, quantitative analysis that require independent thought that AI isn't all that adept at. So we don't actually use it very frequently in those sort of foundational classes. Where it does come in is in some of the upper level electives, and even in the design class to some extent. Those are opportunities for folks to apply those existing tools and to sort of get familiarity with how they might be used for engineering problems. So for example, in the computational materials track, there are courses on molecular model and atomistic modeling, and both of them include AI and well, even quantum computation to some extent, and how those relatively new developments have impacted how folks work in those spaces. On the design course, some of the projects work with large data sets that benefit from some classification theories or learning models, and we allow students sort of freedom again in the design class to make their choices about how and if they want to use AI tools to solve the problems. And so some students have chosen to do that.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Edward and I took a class last year called Energy Storage and Conversion Devices, which really allowed a great amount of freedom to use these very specific AI models in it's a project-based class, and a bunch of these projects were learning how to train these models in order to better answer sort of energy storage questions. And so it was a lot of sort of us coming up with the ways that we wanted to go about solving these problems and coming up with our own ideas, and then using the LLM as sort of a tool to go further within that. So it is something that can be part of the curriculum, but I think a lot of our classes are very much sort of math and technical, and so it's not really as helpful in those. But it's an interesting tool in sort of these higher classes that we've gotten to use.
Definitely a tool that we don't introduce maybe quite as theoretically, but more through practice and experience.
Okay, great. Well, that's it for the questions for now. But again, if anyone wants to reach out individually to Mark about a more nuanced question specific to them, you're welcome to do that. Any last words, Mark, before we wrap up?
Nope. Email address on the slide there. Don't hesitate to contact me. I will be available all summer and very much willing to talk to anyone interested in engineering. Yeah, thank you, Carrie, for the opportunity today.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, and thank you to our student panelists as well. All right, have a good afternoon.
Thank you.